Experience the I Am Melanin Magic difference by going to our website www.IamMelaninMagic.com and purchasing your products today. I am Melanin Magic, and so are you. Welcome to Tanesia's Locks, Beauty Tips, and Potpourri, the channel where we get it all in. You can also learn more about the I Am Melanin Magic brand. Thank you for stopping by. Greetings, welcome to the channel. You're with Tanesia Ali of Tanesia's Locks, Beauty Tips, and Potpourri. I want to welcome you here today. If you're new to the channel, I'm so glad you found us. Welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. If you're one of my OGs, one of my ride or die people, one of the sisters who's been here since the beginning, or are a loyal supporter of this channel and the I Am Melanin Magic brand, just want you to know I appreciate you, and I'm as much out here for you as you are here for me, and I'm very grateful for the way that you have enriched my life and the number and quality of relationships I've been able to build since starting this channel is very humbling. So I love y'all, and I'm glad you're here. Today we're talking about some of the conversations you need to be willing to have with your locticians. Let's say, for example, you are new to Sisterlocks and you're considering getting Sisterlocks, or let's say you're early in the journey, these things can apply to you. It's important to develop a really good rapport with your loctician consultant. It's important to remember that they are human beings, and human beings can be defensive. So the way that you ask these questions is very, very important. The context in which you bring them up, and the tone, and the way that you kind of, relay into the conversation is just as important as the question that you might ask in and of itself. It's just so critical that you have a good relationship with your loctician. I can't underemphasize that. And as you are in this journey, the longer that you're in this journey, the more you realize how critical it actually is. I talk a lot on this channel about things that can challenge us with this journey that we often can take for granted because we get caught up in the outward manifestation of this journey. And it's not sometimes until we are broken down on the side of the road with some real issues that we start looking for solutions, or that we start even realizing that this is not a drama-free hairstyle, and that it is in fact an at-risk hairstyle. Whether you have Sisterlocks, Microlocks, or Tiny Locks, you hear me refer to the style as an at-risk style because it is. If you have an at-risk student in a classroom, you have to put things in place, procedures, classroom management protocols, and so forth and so on. You have to put things in place to minimize the expression of some of those risks, okay? Extra support, all of these things. So that's what I mean when I talk about an at-risk hairstyle. I mean that it is not without problem, and that there are a lot of things that you're going to experience the longer that you're in the journey that you need to try to be proactive about and anticipate at the beginning of the journey. You want to be more solutions oriented and anticipatory in your thinking with regard to how you address some of these challenges, as they no doubt will come up. They definitely do. So again, the way that you talk to your loctician is going to determine how successful you're going to be in having these conversations. And we take a lot of things for granted, but you need to be in a relaxed state. You need to feel as though you're bringing value to the conversation. That'll help reduce any tension. Okay, it'll also help you to keep your voice at a nice, even monotone. It'll keep you from being tense physically, which will help you to be able to express yourself. And I say that because a lot of times, y'all, we can be lions out here in the world when someone comes at us head on, but we can have more of a passive way of dealing with challenges and really participating in what is constructive communication. Communication is not the easiest thing for a lot of people. In fact, so many relationships break down due to a breakdown in communication. And just because you're talking and you're listening and someone is receiving doesn't mean that you're communicating. Okay, there's an art to communicating, and a lot of times it requires that you be strategic. A lot of times it requires that you be calculating in your discussions so that you can arrive at a place that feels good. As I mentioned, a lot of times we can be defensive as human beings. So it's important that you are having the conversation in a way that puts your loctician at ease, whether this is a new person that you are interviewing or talking to because you're considering getting locks, or whether this is your regular loctician that you've been going to for a while. These are things that are very important. So I have a list of some things that I wanted to bring up, but I also wanted to speak to the idea that, you know this, most people are followers and not leaders. Most people are easily led to slaughter. You've heard me say before that oftentimes the sheep does not see the glory of the sun until its neck has been slaughtered and it's looking up. We tend to have a groupthink mentality, and as such, we carry ourselves in a way where we're a little bit more, I don't know, you fill in the word. See if you can come up with the word. Put in the comment section if you can. But we tend to kind of go with the flow. And so as a business owner, when you interface with someone who is well-spoken, they can articulate, they can assert themselves, they are well knowledgeable, and they're well read, and they have some level of experience, your average person can feel a bit intimidated by that. So you have to keep that in mind, not to mention the fact that we tend to be, I hate to say it, but I don't hate to say it, because that same thing is what makes us so intense, and what differentiates us and gives us that oomph. That's what makes us so polyrhythmic in all of our aspects, not just dance. We are a very intense, emotional people. And so that has its pros and its cons. So you have to take these things into consideration when you're dialoguing with your loctician. And I want to give you some tips, as I've given you just now, but I also want to give you some tips about some things that you might want to clear up or make sure you understand prior to going into this journey, or if you're early in the journey. If this looks like something that you want to dig into with me and listen to my feedback regarding, make sure that you hit the like button, the subscribe button, and that you share and comment. That's your way of giving back to the channel, all right? If you haven't purchased my book, Manifesting Your Masterpiece, you can get that on Amazon. There are other ways that you can engage me further beyond the Sisterlocks journey, but also within the Sisterlocks journey, and you're going to find that information in the description. And the description, the best way to get there now, I think YouTube has changed some aspects of its user interface, is to click on the 3 ellipses that are in the title of the video, and that will open up the description box. It used to be where you could hit the down arrow to the right somewhere in the viewing area. But anyway, let's go ahead and dig in. It's a good idea to ask them about how many locks they think you're going to have. Why? Because although I'm not a numbers person and I'm not part of the Sisterlocks mafia, I'm not going to be the person that's going to tell you don't have Sisterlocks because you don't have 400, or you don't have Sisterlocks because you don't have 450. I'm not going to be that person, because I don't think like that. But it can be revealing when you ask that question. You might want to know how many locks they can estimate that you may have. But the idea that they can look at your head and they can size you up and they can make a calculated estimate lets you also know their level of skill. If you ask a consultant that and they look at your head and they say, I don't know, I'm not really sure, we'll have to see. That's somebody you might want to, at least they need to be able to give you a hypothetical and an intelligent estimation, right? Also, that number can help you to understand issues relative to your hair density. The lower that number is from, say, 400, let's say, the less density your hair is, or the less dense your hair is, the higher that number is. The other thing is, if you know you have a lot of hair and your hair is very thick and someone is giving you a number that seems low, to me 450 is what the minimum kind of is. Below that means you would have kind of lower density hair. But as well, like my hair, I don't consider my hair super thick. It simply was not. I had thick hair up in this area of my hair, but around here and in certain areas around the lower back, my hair was not that thick. I've seen sisters with 600 to 800 tiny locks or Sisterlocks. And their hair is on the really thick side. And so if your hair is really thick and you're getting a number of, say, like 550, know that you're probably one of two things: getting less than what your hair can stand if you have very dense, thick hair, but also you could be dealing with someone who is not willing to put in the extra locks. One of the concerns that is being brought to my attention today with Sisterlocks is locticians who are deliberately combining locks, not because they need to be combined, and locticians who are choosing to install less locks, and people who are having difficulty finding locticians to maintain and care for their hair because they have so many locks. So it's important for you to distinguish where you may be, because if you want a smaller lock and your locks are bigger than what you feel you need to have, and I'm speaking primarily to those people that have and know that they need thicker locks, then you may need to come up with a plan. Seriously, we have to get creative. I'm about solutions. We have to find creative solutions to these problems. Let's say, for example, you got a whole lot of locks and you're having trouble finding a loctician. You may have to do half your hair, or you may have to do this part of your hair. You may have to go to 2 separate locticians. And I know that sounds crazy, but you do what you have to do when you have to do it. You got to be able to think outside the box. That's what this style actually involves. Okay, the second thing I wanted to talk with you about is, and this is really important with regard to your reties, with them looking at your hair, because hopefully by this time they've already done the starter lock and they've looked at your hair and determined the pattern and all of that. Asking them the critical questions about the reties. Do shampoos come as a part of the retie? Some of you prefer this. I don't. I prefer to wash my own hair. I prefer to detangle my hair before I sit in the chair, because I know I'm in better shape to make sure that my particular idiosyncrasies are honored and that I be the one to pull those tender pieces of hair apart. I don't need that extra trauma. So I don't need anybody to wash my hair. I don't even want anybody to wash my hair. I would much rather do it myself, because there's a lot of pressure and tension that goes into the shampooing process. And so that's very important to me. I'm particular about how my locks are handled. And you'll be too as you get further along this journey and you realize some of the risks. So what comes with the retie? How much is it? What is their estimation of how often you might need a retie? And I'm going to tell you this. I feel, based on my experience, that your retie should be somewhere ideally between 7 to maybe 9 weeks. All right. Some of you are going 6. Some of you do 5 because you're earlier in the journey and your loctician has slippage concerns. I'm not talking about that. Okay. Some of you may go a little bit more than that. I've tended to wait 10 to 11 weeks for the last, sometimes 12 weeks, between 11 and 12, probably more than 10 and 11 over the last, I guess it's been maybe 5, 6, 7 years now. 8, it's been longer than that because I've been at this for a while. First 2 years, I was doing about every 8 weeks because I tried to go 10 weeks very early on and it messed my lock up. I had this huge bunch of nappy, thick hair that was like a bulge, and several of the locks. I waited too long, but I was earlier in the journey. So I had to be more particular. Once my locks compressed after year 5, I was able to do a lot of different things with them. But I would say that would be ideal for most people based on their hair growth. Again, that varies from person to person. But if someone is telling you something like 4 to 6 weeks, you need to be concerned about that, because that's not a schedule you can keep up. Number one, financially, but that's not even the most important reason why. That's not a schedule you can keep up, because that's going to be counterproductive to the health of your hair. And I don't care what anyone says, okay? Someone that's trying to retighten your hair every 4 weeks beyond the initial period when you just had your lock installed and you're going back and they're checking for this and they're checking for that, that's something you need to be concerned about. That's somebody who may be trying to supplement their income in a predictable fashion and be less concerned about the long-term effects of doing that. If I were going to take that advice from someone, it would have to be someone who has had Sisterlocks or Tiny Locks or Microlocks themselves for many years, that they themselves do a 4-week retightening schedule or a 5-week retightening schedule that they've been doing for a number of years. Because it is my proposition that that's going to cause a level of trauma through repetitive injury to your hair that you're going to have trouble recovering from. And it's going to result in weight loss a lot sooner rather than later. So that's something you really need to consider. You need to consider what things you need to be mindful of with regard to appointments. Do they have a cancellation policy if you need to cancel? Do you have to put a deposit down? What if they need to cancel? How much notice will they give you unless it's an emergency? When you start asking these questions, you start getting a sense of whether or not you're dealing with a professional. Or are you just dealing with a little mom and pop shop, somebody who set up something or is doing something in their basement, and they may be stripping chicken while they're doing your hair or changing diapers? Not that I have anything against children. I love children. All right. But then when I say that, I'm being a little facetious in the sense that are you dealing with a professional? Are you dealing with someone who can communicate their needs to you, who can be empowered to have constructive, open communication with you, in terms of levels of how they run their business? You ask these questions, although they're relative to getting a response regarding the retie, it also reveals certain things to you with regard to the kind of person that you're dealing with. Do they expect you, if you're going to wash your own hair, how early before getting your retie do they expect your hair to be washed? Is there anything else that they expect you to do prior to coming in for your retie? It is my belief that you need to have untangled your hair and you need to have worked through your hair to make sure that it's easy for those tools to glide through and it's easy for your loctician to manipulate. The more negligent that you are with that, the more you increase the risk of your hair having to be pulled and having soreness and having trauma to your hair while you're getting the retightening. You don't want that. Just the detangling can create stress on your scalp and soreness, even if the retightening itself is done very tenderly. So, and that's kind of almost those are two things that kind of have a relationship. So the likelihood of one being the case and the other not being the case is going to be slim anyway, but you definitely increase your chances of that when you don't untangle your own hair. So that's my recommendation. But there may be other things that you're going to want to know when you're asking about the retightening. How important is the grid versus the health of the lock? Meaning, what you're trying to find out is, are they going to be so anal about that grid and maintaining that grid that they're going to tighten so tight to the scalp that it's not going to be healthy for the hair, whether it hurts you or not. It may not hurt your hair physically because you may not be tender-headed. You just may have a high tolerance for discomfort. So those are kind of things that you want to ask. The other thing you want to ask is if you're able to talk to a few of her veteran clients. Veteran to her may mean someone she's worked with over a year. This can be a tricky question to ask. Is there someone who I can speak to whose hair you maintained for a while, but whose hair you don't service anymore? That's a difficult question. Most people are not going to want to give that up. A person who does is a very noble person, and they don't feel threatened, and they can stand in the decisions that they make with regard to taking care of hair. But trying to get a sense of if they recommend, you can initially start out with, are there some clients that you can recommend that I speak with? And when you speak with those clients, after they give you those names or that information, some people may just direct you to their website. That's not really what you want. You don't need to see pictures. People can, they take pictures from other websites all the time. My loctician has some of her pictures stolen and placed on another site. So that's not going to be evidence enough. You need the names of a few people, 2 or 3 people, who you can talk to about their experience with the Sisterlock journey with your loctician. Get those contacts first. And then once that person has given you the contacts, then circle back and say, are any of these people long-term clients? And if so, how long? Because they may give you the names of the last 3 people that they work with, that they're buddy-buddy with. You want someone who they have maintained for quite some time. But if you ask that up front, you run the risk of the person becoming defensive. So ask for a few references and then come around and then identify if any of those people are long-term clients, and if so, how long. All right. Be mindful of whether or not that person themselves has Sisterlocks or Microlocks or Tiny Locks. That's important. It's like we would go to get our box braids done by the people. I know I went a couple times to some Nigerians back in the day when I got tired of doing my own. And the people that were doing my hair were bald from here to here. And they had box braids. And then when I finished, she finished servicing my hair and I got up out the chair, I could understand why they was bald. Because they thought them things had to be so tight that your eyes had to be doing like this. And it was, if you didn't have, you know how some people feel like if they don't get mistreated in a relationship, the person doesn't love them. Okay, well, hair is not supposed to hurt. Some people feel like if it's not tight enough and you're not in pain, then they're not good enough. The implementation or the execution of the style or the style, you know, the way it was put in your hair, something was done wrong to it. That's not what you're looking for. Okay, you don't need any pain. You don't need your eyes to be like this. You don't need to feel like you used to feel when you would sit out on the steps up in the north in those inner city communities, and you would be getting your hair braided and it would just be so tight, and 3 or 4 days of pain was the expectation, and you knew after that point you could breathe again. No, that's not what you want. So that's really important. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention is you need to ask, what does she do in the case of people who are experiencing alopecia? This you must ask. This is a question that should go up in the beginning, because you may not be able to ask all these questions at once without some person feeling as though you are interrogating them. Okay, but this is a question you cannot afford not to ask, okay? Because it's not, for a lot of people, as you hear me say, this is an at-risk style. It's not a matter of when, if, it's a matter of when for a lot of people who wear the style. All right, that's what we need to start accepting. So you want to know how this person handles it. If they can't answer that question, you have a problem. If they can't answer that question in a way that allows you to glean that they recognize a referral to a damn dermatologist or a trichologist is not what is at issue. All right, and while it may be helpful, that doesn't demonstrate an understanding of other things that are major factors in the loss of hair in this journey. That might not be the person for you. Maybe that's the person that you have installed, and maybe that's the person that you use for the first year. But you need someone who can have an intelligent discussion with you about what are some of the things that they recommend when people start having thinning locks, when they're experiencing alopecia or the locks are starting to drop. And it needs to imply that they have an understanding that either on the front end, well, you know, with my clients, I make sure that I'm very tender. I really don't have a lot of issues with that. And I think it's because of the fact that I don't do a lot of frequent reties. I make sure that I select the proper density or size of the locks when I do install. I make sure that my clients supplement nutritively with whatever it is they recommend that the person put in their hair, or these are stretching, because your average loctician is not going to go down this path. But essentially you want to know if they recognize that some of the things that they may be doing in and of themselves can contribute to this hair loss. And you're not just going to have someone who may say to you, well, my clients that, you know, have alopecia, most of them had it before they got locks. Or, you know, my clients that have alopecia that develop that are usually older, and I send them to the dermatologist. Or Sisterlocks has this trichologist or whatever program that they have, which also is an attempt to have you adjust some of the things around what is conventional wisdom as a cause for this hair loss instead of the style in and of itself. So you need to be able to have some dialogue about that. And last but not least, you need to kind of understand what you should do if there's a concern that you have regarding your hair. That okay, go. She's one of those high maintenance dogs. Love her to death, but she never gets enough. Albie needs 100% of your attention. She's high maintenance. So you can say, how do you handle a customer that has some concerns and is dissatisfied with a service that you provide? That's a way to ask a question. Another way may be, How do you handle difficult clients? You can put it as difficult clients, because some people feel like if you're just asking questions, you are potentially difficult. So remember, you're looking at the way they respond to the question, and you're looking under. These are very targeted questions that if you give them time to express themselves, it can tell you a lot about a person. Sometimes we're asking a question, but we're looking for something else in the response. And that's the way this is going to go when you're trying to find the ideal loctician. You want somebody who's open, who is an assertive communicator, who does not tense up or get upset or get an attitude or change their tone when it's time to address a difficult question that you may have. You want someone who allays your concern. You want their energy to feel calming to you. You want them to talk to you with confidence. And ideally, you want to feel that they are informed and an expert at what they do, which means when you ask them a question, they shouldn't have to search a long time to give you an answer. If I were a surgeon and you asked me about a particular cut or a particular type of tool that was going to be used during your surgery, and I had to take 45 minutes before I started talking, would you want to go under the knife with me? I don't think so. If you're bringing your kid to me to be tutored in math, and you ask me, about a percentage discount, and I can't speak in terms of numbers, and I can't give you 20% off, and I don't know automatically if something is $240, 20% is $480. Is that right? Yeah. Sorry, some $24. We're talking about $48 off. If I can't come up with those numbers, you're gonna wonder how it is that I'm teaching math, right? So this is important, because sometimes we can jump the gun and want this hairstyle so much that we don't do our due diligence. We just want the look. We want to get the grid. We need these tiny locks. They look good. So you're getting ready to go to someone who you're ready to have to start your locks, and you may have these concerns. Now, let's say you choose this person anyway because you've seen the immaculate nature, the way that they do the grid, and you like the way their clients look and all this whole other stuff. It may just be a situation where as soon as you go to them, you begin then looking for someone to maintain your locks, and you give yourself time to find someone. I always say it's a good idea to have a backup. So these are just some of the things that you need to be privy to in your pre-Sisterlocks research. I'll be doing a lot more videos like this, and I'm also going to go back and look at some of my older videos that some of you guys really liked who've been with the channel, and I'll redo some of those for some of our newer subscribers, because those videos are so far back in the queue, a person may not be able to find them. But this is definitely one of the most important decisions that you will make, who it is that you are choosing for your loctician. Don't forget to purchase Manifesting Your Masterpiece. Don't forget to visit the I Am Melanin Magic website. And don't forget to look in the subscription if you want to engage me in another fashion at a deeper level. All right, so I'm sending you gratitude. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it to the end, please put that in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Okay? Bye.
If you are not using I Am Melanin Magic hair oil, then what are you using?
Hey guys, so I started using this oil called I Am Melanin Magic since February of this year, and check out the new growth. Like, it's insane. Not only did it help with my new growth, but it smells amazing too.
See the dramatic improvements Denisha has made after not having hair around her edges for 3 years. Tanya's hair had been like this for almost 20 years, and while getting injections. Her doctor said it was scarred and would never grow back. After 4 weeks of using I Am Melanin Magic, this is what she looked like. I Am Melanin Magic did this to Danette's hair after a short time. Hi, I'm the creator of the I Am Melanin Magic hair and skincare brand. My vision has always been to develop a line of products that meets the unique needs of melanated people. The I Am Melanin Magic hair oil is our premier product. It is the leading high-end supplement for your mane.
It reduces breakage, promotes growth, and can be used on all hair types and looks, from straightened hair and microlocks to wigs and protective styles. It's antifungal, antibacterial, and anti-funk, so you know you're protected.
It softens and conditions your hair, and it's anti-frizz too.
This really is all you need. It's rich with antioxidants, loaded with growth-promoting ingredients. Look at the growth of my hair. The proof is in the product. Need I say more? Don't delay. Purchase yours today.
I am Melanin Magic, and so are you.